Iranians and you embolden the Syrians and you embolden the Russians. Nobody expected that President Obama was going to give away the store to the Russians. Recall back to 2013, Bashar Assad used chemical weapons. Barack Obama then drew a red line in the sand. Here is President Obama back then drawing a red line.
We have been very clear to the Assad regime, but also to other players on the ground, that a red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized. That would change my calculus. That would change my equation.
Okay, so he made that statement actually in August of 2012, and then of course Bashar Assad immediately used chemical weapons, like within a couple of months. And then Barack Obama did something really unexpected. First he said, maybe I'll throw a missile in there, but you know what? I need congressional approval. Now, that was obviously a lie because he didn't have congressional approval for his Libya action. He just went ahead and did it. But he said, I'll throw it to Congress, and that went nowhere. And then he said, you know what? I'll let the Russians take over. The Russians can come in and they will disarm the Syrians. So Barack Obama and Susan Rice both came out. Susan Rice, then the National Security Advisor, she came out and she said, don't worry, Syria's chemical weapons have been removed. They're gone. Syria has no more chemical weapons. Right? Obama was triumphalist about this. He said, everything is better. There will be no more chemical weapons attacks. Everything is under control. Here is Barack Obama and Susan Rice. This is back in 2013.
Think about what we've done these last 8 years without firing a shot. We've eliminated Syria's declared chemical weapons program. All of these steps have helped keep us safe and helped keep our troops safe. Those are the result of diplomacy. We don't have strong efforts there, the more you will be called upon to clean up after the failure of diplomacy.
We were able to find a solution that actually removed the chemical weapons that were known from Syria in a way that the use of force would never have accomplished.
Okay, Tommy Peter said the same thing. Well, you know, we got rid of a lot of the chemical weapons, right, except for the ones that he's using on the civilians and has continued to use on the civilians. So, well done, Susan Rice. It is amazing. All these people who came into the Obama administration proclaiming that it was a new day for American foreign policy and they were going to act in the humanitarian interest of the people of Syria, and then proceeded to allow that entire country to descend into utter and absolute chaos. Now, there's a civil war going on, and that wasn't Barack Obama's fault. It was Barack Obama's fault that he decided to hand over all of these security concerns to the Russians. And the Russians obviously had nefarious purposes there. All they care about is propping up Bashar Assad. And all of this raises the question, which is, okay, what should the United States do now? And that is a serious and open question. You know, it is amazing, again, how badly the Obama administration blew it. This is not on President Trump, but now Trump is the president, so that raises a question as to where we go from here. In a second, I'm going to answer that question for you, or at least give you maybe some concerns that I have about full-scale military intervention, as well as some possibilities on what we can do in Syria right now. First, I want to say thanks to our sponsors over at Stamps.com. So these days, you can get practically everything on demand, but you still think you have to go to the post office to get your stamps. Well, you no longer have to go to your post office to get the stamps. Instead, you go to Stamps.com. With Stamps.com, you can access all of the amazing services of the post office right from your desk 24/7 when it's convenient for you. Buy and print official U.S. postage for any letter, any package using your own computer and printer. The mail carrier just picks it up. Just click, print, mail, you're done. You can print it right onto the envelope, you can print it right onto a sticker, you can print it right onto a piece of paper, and then tape it to an envelope. We use Stamps.com here at the Daily Wire offices all the time because we don't have time to run down to the post office. It saves us time, it saves us money, and it will save you time and money as well. Right now, we have a special offer for all of our listeners. If you use promo code Shapiro, you get $55, up to $55 of free postage plus a digital scale and a 4-week trial. So all you do is go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, before you even check out the website, click on the radio microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Shapiro, and that gets you, that's your promo code, Stamps.com. Use that promo code Shapiro, and again, you get up to $55 free postage, a digital scale, and a 4-week trial. So pretty spectacular deal. Once you've tried it, you'll love it, and you will continue using it, I promise. Stamps.com.
Come here, baby.
Promo code Shapiro when you click on that radio microphone at the top of the page. Again, that radio microphone, click Shapiro, type in Shapiro, get that special deal, and let them know that we sent you. Okay, so what exactly should we do from here? Right, that is the big question in all of this. And one of the things that has changed, there are a lot of people like me who back during the Obama administration said, this is a direct quote.
Why are you babies fighting?
Bombing missiles into Syria without decapitating the regime strengthens both Assad and the mullahs. In other words, whatever you do has to have real impact. You can't do what Obama wanted to do and take a half-assed action and then hope that everything is going to be better. That doesn't work. And you can't hand over power to the Russian government, whose only interest is in continued propagation of the domination of Bashar Assad and the continued domination of the Iranian regime across the Middle East. And things have changed radically since 2013 because of a couple of the deals that the Obama administration cut. Remember, the situation in 2012, 2013 was a lot simpler. Russia was not running Syria at that point, and Iran was still under American sanction. Well, because of Barack Obama, Iran now has a lot of money to play with, and they have expanded their terrorism outreach all across the Middle East. Suddenly, there's a swath of territory all the way from Iran to Lebanon that is dominated by Iran. That's dominated by Iran, and that includes Syria. This is why Israel was the one that actually struck out yesterday at the targets in Syria. They've been striking out at targets in Syria, as I say, over 100 times they struck at targets in Syria since 2012, because Syria is being used as a thoroughfare for the world's worst weapons being put in the hands of terrorists, people like Hamas, people like Hezbollah. Yadlin Amos is a retired general in the Israeli army, and the executive director of Tel Aviv University's Institute for National Security Studies, and he has a really interesting tweet thread about what happened last night when Israel apparently struck T4, which is a Syrian airbase. He said the reported strike last night at T4, Syria is part of the two colliding vectors, Iranian determination to entrench itself in Syria and Israeli resolve to prevent it. This was the first reported airstrike since February 10th incidents. The colliding vectors were recognized months ago in the Israeli national security strategy, and Syrian and Iranian responses cannot be ruled out. The strike's timing drove Syria to first attribute it to the U.S. as a response to Assad's use of chemical weapons against civilians in Douma. However, the U.S. has denied responsibility, while the target hit is connected to Iran and not to chemical weapons. It is not from T4 Air Force Base that the CW dropping aircraft came, while reports of Iranian casualties are a strong testament. That being said, a strike may well serve two purposes, promoting two objectives in a single step, preventing Iranian entrenchment in Syria with advanced weaponry, and sending a moral message that using CW to commit mass murder is not acceptable. To that end, even if it does not take responsibility for the strike last night, it is important that Israel make its voice heard, denouncing the use of chemical weapons and their use in Syria awaits a U.S. and Western response, and one cannot rule out the possibility of a U.S. strike on regime targets. So, here's what's happening. This has now become a grand strategic game. This is no longer a situation in which everything is contained. Okay, that's the reality of the situation in Syria right now. This is not a containable situation. Russia is involved. Iran, this is now a proxy war about who is going to control this entire swath of land in the Middle East. That means Saudi Arabia is involved. It means Jordan is involved. It means Egypt is involved. It means Israel is involved. If World War III breaks out in Syria, World War III will break out because Barack Obama allowed Syria to become a tinderbox by pulling American troops out of Iraq, by allowing Iran to run roughshod through Iraq, and by allowing Iran to extend its domination all the way to Lebanon.
Now.
So what exactly should we do? Well, we should do a couple of things. If we have the capacity, we should knock out as much of the Syrian Air Force as we possibly can. We should knock down as many of their anti-aircraft missiles as we possibly can. We should... It's probably impossible to decapitate the regime with significant amounts of boots on the ground. Whatever we can do from the air, we should do from the air. And we should also ensure that there are safe havens for Syrian rebels and people who want to escape the Assad regime. And those should be protected by a coalition force led by the United States. The reason being that there have to be safe spaces for all of these Syrian refugees. Otherwise, they're just going to come into the West. Otherwise, they're just going to escape across the Mediterranean and into Europe. Or they will come to the United States. And that's something that a lot of Trump supporters are not fond of either. So either they're going to stay there in safe places that we help set up, or they will be killed, or they will escape. But should we go in and make this a full-scale land war? Probably not. Probably not. Because again, what's America's interest here? America has two real interests.
So he went back in and told the guy that his sister was crying and needed a sucker.
That exists all across the globe. Checking Russian interests in Syria. Russia wants to ensure that Bashar Assad and the Iranian regime retain power and gain power in that region, which makes it more likely the war breaks out. And stopping the growth of the Iranian regime. Israel and Saudi Arabia, by the way, are happy to take the lead here. Right? Israel obviously is already taking the lead here. Israel isn't going to wait. So the fact that the United States can mobilize a commitment behind Israeli-led action in Syria would be a good thing. Okay, if we have allies who are willing to do this, there's no reason the United States should have to lead the way. But again, the U.S. is going to have to be involved. That means setting up these safer places for Syrian refugees to go. It means neutering the ability of the Assad regime to use chemical weapons. And it means preventing them from making more territorial encroachments into rebel-held areas. And that means providing actual armed support to whatever Syrian rebels are left who have not been murdered already by ISIS and the Assad regime, and arming those people who are left in order to resist the Assad regime. This now has implications far beyond the borders of Syria, and we are going to pay a price for it in terms of money and treasure and the possibility of additional terrorism and the spread of chemical weapons if we take a fully hands-off approach, as some of the more isolationist members of the Republican Party seem to be promoting. Okay, well, meanwhile, there's a bunch of other stuff going on. among those other things, apparently President Trump is intent on launching a trade war. The stock market has been up and down, basically assuming that President Trump is not serious about the trade war, or that he is serious about the trade war. It's not clear where he is on the trade war, but it's interesting to see how many members of the Trump administration are trying to kind of shift his thinking on trade itself. So let's talk a little bit about where he is. So a couple of Trump's officials went on TV over the weekend to talk about President Trump's initiation of a trade war against China. He obviously has set tariffs extraordinarily high in particular sectors of the economy. And there are two takes on tariffs. And take number one from the Trump administration on tariffs is that tariffs are a tool that is to be used as often as possible because they're good for the United States. We have a trade deficit, and the only way to rectify that trade imbalance is to put tariffs on foreign products, thereby forcing American citizens to buy American and lowering the amounts of money that we are exporting to China, for example. Okay, that is idiotic economically for reasons that I've suggested many times on this program. And the reality is that taxing American citizens does not make American citizens more wealthy. And all a tariff is an indirect tax on American citizens for the benefit of certain American businesses. So if there is a steel maker who is less efficient than another steel maker that is located abroad, and you are forcing American citizens to patronize the American steel maker, you're taking it out of my pocket to another business. That is just a form of redistributionism. It's a tax and spend program. That's all a tariff is. It's a domestic tax and spend program, and that does not make America any wealthier. Now, it is another question if you are using trade in order to punish bad regimes, for example. We've done that with South Africa in the past. We have done that with Iran. We did that. That's what sanctions were for. It was essentially a tariff on an impossibly high tariff on Iran, was essentially what a sanction is in policy. So that there's using it for security reasons. There's also using it in order to try and jog other countries to lower their tariffs. So let's say China has a bunch of tariffs on American products, and we say, listen, you lower your tariffs, we'll lower our tariffs, but if you're going to tariff our products, we'll tariff yours, and our market is bigger than yours, right? Then that may be worthwhile also. Now, the problem here is that Trump is a devotee of the first kind of thinking, that tariffs are universally good. A lot of the people who surround him are people who think that tariffs can be strategically useful. And I think what they are trying to do inside the Trump administration is manipulate the president into using tariffs as a targeted method of lowering tariffs elsewhere or pushing security change. And what Trump actually wants, he just likes the tariffs generally. So you can see this from some of his officials. Steve Mnuchin is one of them. Mnuchin came out and he said, listen, maybe there will be a trade war, but it'll be okay. What Trump's officials know better than anybody, the people who surround Trump, is that there's one word Trump does not hear, and that word is if you say to President Trump anything, there is a 100% guarantee he will do that thing. It does not matter what the thing is. Literally, they told him, don't look into a solar eclipse without your sunglasses. And the President of the United States took off his sunglasses and looked into a solar eclipse. Because if you tell him no, he's got the same reaction as both my kids. Who are you? Who are you? Okay, so Steve Mnuchin and Larry Kudlow both have been avoiding telling him no. What they're trying to do instead is, I think, convince him that it's a qualified no. Yes, Mr. President, that's brilliant policy, but it would be best if you used it in this particular way. So I'll explain what they're doing in just a second. First, I want to say thanks to our sponsors over at Wing. So, does all this news stuff make you stressed out? It makes me stressed out, and that's why at night, sometimes you need a glass of wine. Let's be real about this. Or you're going over to a dinner party, and you don't know anything about wine, and you don't want to arrive at their door with a bottle of Drano. Well, the best way to avoid that horrible fate is to go over to my friends at Wink. So Wink makes it easy to discover great wine. Wink's wine experts select wines matched to your taste, personalized for you, shipped right to your door, starting just $13 a bottle. You just fill out Wink's palate profile quiz. So here's how it works. You go, and there's a bunch of simple questions. Things like, how do you take your coffee? How do you feel about blueberries, tastes that you like? And then they will recommend a bottle of wine to you, and they send wines curated to your taste. The more wines you rate, the more personalized your monthly selections become. It's just like any other service like Netflix. They have algorithms that help them determine what kind of wines you will like. And each month, there are new delicious wines. Right now, they have an insanely popular summer water rosé. This wine is very popular around the office. We've actually had Wink wine tastings here at the office, which is not good for productivity, but it is good for a company spirit. Okay, discover great wine today. Go to trywink.com/Ben. It's WINC.com. Trywink.com/Ben. You get $20 off your first shipment. That's TRYWINC.com/Ben for $20 off your first shipment. Again, trywink.com/Ben. Their wines are all tremendous, and you will really enjoy them. And again, they all curated directly to your taste. You never have to arrive at somebody's house with a crappy bottle of wine ever again, nor do you have to spend $100 on a nice bottle of wine just to prove that you know what you're doing. Instead, go to trywink.com/Ben, and you get that $20 off. That also lets them know that we sent you. Okay, so here are the members of the Trump administration trying to convince President Trump that a trade war might not be a bad idea, while saying, well, okay, maybe there will be a trade war, because they don't actually want to say no to the president. Here's Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary.
I don't expect there will be a trade war. It could be, but I don't expect it at all. But the president is willing to make sure we have free and fair trade, as you've seen his tweet already this morning. And again, he has a very close relationship with President Xi, and we'll continue to discuss these issues with them.
Okay, so he is soft pedaling it because, again, if you say no to Trump, it is more likely that he launches a trade war on everybody. Larry Kudlow sort of doing the same thing. He's the new head of the National Economic Council and a free trader. He says, listen, we have to do this, but listen to his rationale for why these tariffs are necessary. It is not because the tariffs are a great idea just in and of themselves. It's because he thinks that they are a useful tool for lowering tariffs elsewhere.
My message essentially is, look, we have to do this. We have to get China to change its behavior. It's 2 decades, and they're still stealing our intellectual property. They're still forcing technology turnovers from our businesses to them. They've still got high tariffs. They've still got trade barriers. They still have market closing instead of market opening. So that's got to change. Trump is doing the Lord's work.
Okay, so Kudlow is basically saying the tariffs are points of leverage. It's not that tariffs are just a wonderfully innate great thing. President Trump, however, tends to think that they are a great thing. I hope that Kudlow obviously prevails. I hope that Mnuchin prevails. I hope that his team allows Trump to recognize the reality about trade, which is that tariffs can be a useful tool for leveraging things from other people, but they're not good innately for the United States of America. Okay, meanwhile, in other news, late last week, we didn't get a chance to comment on it. This is an amazing story. Jeffrey Goldberg is the editor of The Atlantic. Jeffrey Goldberg is also a schmuck. So Jeffrey Goldberg is the guy who was essentially a tool of the Obama administration in pushing out their Iran lies. Every time they had a piece of propaganda, they went out to Jeffrey Goldberg because Jeffrey Goldberg was their boy. Jeffrey Goldberg was the guy who was going to say what they want. Well, now he's the editor of The Atlantic. And a few weeks ago, he did something that looked a little more reasonable. It looked a little smart. He said he wanted to diversify the opinion pages over at The Atlantic, and they hired former National Review columnist Kevin Williamson. Now, Kevin is a real iconoclast. Kevin is the kind of guy who says, I would say, wild things on a regular basis. He's a tremendous writer. I mean, a really tremendous writer. But all of his language is extraordinarily strong. He always takes very strong positions, some of them on bizarre issues. And one of the issues that people had known about for a long time that Kevin had spoken about was that he is not generally in favor of the death penalty. He doesn't like the death penalty, and he would avoid the death penalty. But if the death penalty were to remain applicable in the United States, he believes that women should be punished for abortion because if abortion is homicide, then women should be punished for it. And if women were to be punished for it and the death penalty were still in play, then he presumes that women would get the death penalty. Right? He had tweeted about that before. And The Atlantic fully knew about this, right? Jeffrey Goldberg knew about it. Everyone on Twitter knew about this. It was one of Williamson's weirder positions. Now, the general pro-life position on this issue is that he wouldn't actually punish the woman for the abortion. He punished the abortion doctors for the abortion because women who are obtaining abortions generally are doing so because they do not have the proper mens rea. They don't actually think of it as killing their own baby, and so they don't actually know what it is they're doing, whereas a doctor full well knows what he's doing. This has always been the pro-life position in the general pro-life community. Williamson takes an even stronger position than that, obviously. Well, he tweeted something out about it, and then they discovered that on a podcast he talked a little bit about it. So here's what it sounded like when Kevin Williamson, this new Atlantic columnist, had talked about this on a podcast with Charlie Cook, a National Review podcast called Mad Dogs and Englishmen.
And someone challenged me on my views of abortion, saying if you really thought it was a crime, you would support things like, life in prison, no parole, for treating as a homicide. And I do support that. In fact, as I wrote, well, I might as well. And, but yeah, so when I was talking about, I would totally go with treating like any other crime up to and including hanging.
Okay, so what he meant there, of course, is that as a thought experiment, if you were going to have hanging as the legal method of death in all of these various areas, Williamson by nature is against the death penalty, by the way, then he would say that applies to abortion. Now, do I think that's a good argument? No. Do I agree with Williamson? No. But the Atlantic fired him for this. Okay, and then they issued a statement talking about how his views were essentially unacceptable. Here is what Goldberg said, quote, the language he used in this podcast and in my conversations with him in recent days made it clear that the original tweet did, in fact, represent his carefully considered views. Okay, well, you didn't know that? Like, he had said that. It was on his Twitter account. And I assumed that Jeffrey Goldberg had called him up about it, and Goldberg had said, do you believe this? And Williams said, yeah, I believe this. Well, as the editor of a website, one of the things that we do is we hire a bunch of people with widely disparate views. They're all on the right because I'm the editor of the website, and it's a right-wing website. It's a conservative website over at Daily Wire. If people hold opinions, like pro-choice opinions, for example, they do not appear on our website. There may be pro-choice writers who write for us. I really don't know. But I can edit what goes on my website. Well, The Atlantic certainly could have done the same thing with Williamson. If they don't like this particular opinion, he said, listen, I want to write a long article about why hanging is the proper response to abortion. And the Atlantic said, listen, we don't want that in our pages. That's their prerogative. But firing him preemptively for a thought crime, for a view that he had not expressed in the pages of the Atlantic, is a pretty amazing thing. And Williamson has a lot of very strong positions. And what this really is that the left believes that any right-winger, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter for Williamson or Bret Stephens or me or Ross Newhat. It does not matter. Okay, anybody who is on the right, Barry Weiss is not even on the right. If you are not of the hardcore left, then the left sees you as an improper human being, right? They will not allow you to appear in their pages on a regular basis, or if they do, they will do so extraordinarily grudgingly. Okay? And the Atlantic was considered a more moderate sort of publication. Right? There are more moderate publications that try to do this, but they are becoming fewer and far between. And just to point out that the Atlantic is not consistent about their standards for public rhetoric, the Atlantic champions the fact that they are the home of Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote about 9/11 first responders that they were, quote-unquote, not human to me. And it's a direct quote from Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi Coates. Okay, the fact is that the Atlantic has given glowing profiles to people like Peter Singer. Peter Singer is a quote-unquote ethnicist at Princeton who forcibly advocates for the murder of children outside the womb. He says if a woman wants to kill a baby after it is born, that is okay. So just to be straight about this, Peter Singer says killing a baby after it's born is okay because babies don't have an awareness of their time and place in the universe because they're stupid, and so you can kill them. Right? This is Peter Singer's stated position on genocide against small children, against babies. That is worthy of some sort of decent profile in the Atlantic. Kevin Williamson is too harsh on people who actually kill their babies, and this is considered something just egregious and wrong and terrible. It's pretty amazing and demonstrates the extremism of the left. In a second, I'm going to explain to you why it is that this has some pretty dramatic ramifications for the entire political discourse. Because, Williamson may be an iconoclastic figure. You may not know who he is. You may not care about the Atlantic. But this is an indicator of where our political discourse is going, and it is nowhere good. I have a lot of thoughts on this. First, you're going to have to go over to dailywire.com and subscribe. So for $9.99 a month, you get a subscription to Daily Wire. When you get that subscription, you get the rest of my show live. You get the rest of Andrew Klavan's show live. You get the rest of Michael Knowles' show live as well. And you get to be part of my mailbag, Drew's mailbag. Also, tomorrow is the conversation, right? So our next episode of the conversation is coming up tomorrow, 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. Here's the way that it works. If you haven't joined the conversation series, it's our monthly Q&A. It's hosted by Alicia Krause, and all the hosts answer personal questions, all these questions. Andrew Klavan is the victim tomorrow. So you can ask all of your questions to him. It streams live at the YouTube and Facebook pages. It's free for everybody to watch. Only subscribers can actually ask the questions. To ask the questions as a subscriber, log into our website, dailywire.com. Head over to the conversation page to watch the live stream. After that, start typing into the Daily Wire chat box, and Drew will answer questions as they come in for an entire hour. So once again, subscribe, get your questions answered by Drew tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and join the conversation. Get all that with the subscriptions. That's pretty awesome. The annual subscription comes along with this. The leftist tears, hot or cold mug. You will love it. It is enjoyable. It makes you wiser, smarter, and truer as a human being. So check that out. You will add years to your life, I've heard. Okay, I can't make that claim. It's not been verified by the FDA, but I hear that if you drink just once from this tumbler, then your life is strengthened, that you actually double your muscle mass. I don't know if that's true or not. But I can tell you before this, I was just a weakling, and I drank from that, and suddenly I'm a stud. So that's the way that works. So check that out. $99 a year, and you get all of those aforementioned glories. It's cheaper than the monthly subscription. Or if you just want to listen later for free, go over to iTunes, go over to SoundCloud, go over to YouTube. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative show in the nation. Alrighty, so I want to talk a little bit more about Kevin Williamson here. So here is why this is a problem. You may think that Williamson's crazy. You may hate his viewpoints. You may think that Williamson is garbage. Kevin Williamson, first of all, is a very good writer. Second of all, Kevin Williamson is wildly anti-Trump. When I say he is wildly anti-Trump, I don't mean he just opposed Trump in the election. I mean that he wrote a column when Trump announced called The Ape Descends the Escalator. I mean that this is a guy who in his columns has called Donald Trump's sons Uday and Kusei. Okay, he is not subtle about his dislike for President Trump. And even he was not acceptable to the left. Because he has a view on abortion that is outside the mainstream. And as I say, leftist views on abortion, which are inherently outside the mainstream, those are not outside the mainstream according to the Atlantic. They are just fine. Again, Peter Singer is probably just fine for the Atlantic. But Kevin Williamson is not acceptable. What does this mean? What this means is the left is doing something really, really damaging to American discourse. They're shrinking the Overton window. And the Overton window is a term that I believe was originally used by the VP of a think tank. It was named after him. The Overton window means the range of acceptable discourse. Right? So in any conversation, there's a range of acceptable discourse. there are people who you say are just not acceptable to talk to. You know, people who, for example, say that black people are innately inferior, right? Those are people who are just not worth talking to. That is not acceptable discourse. Now, this does not mean they don't have a right to say what they want to say. They have a right to say whatever they want to say. It's the First Amendment. Welcome to America. That's fine. But I am not a moral relativist, and I don't believe that just because you have a right to say something means that you should say it or that everything that is said is equal in value. Okay, so there's something called the Overton window, which is the window of acceptable discourse or useful discourse. But what the left has done is they've shrunk the Overton window down to about pinprick size. Okay, so the Overton window is now the space of opinion between Bernie Sanders and maybe Kamala Harris. Right? That's basically the level of acceptable discourse between Ta-Nehisi Coates' intersectional leftism and Bernie Sanders' socialist leftism. Everything in between there is cool. But if you're outside that Overton window, then you're unacceptable. So what does this mean? Well, it means that the left has now separated discourse not into three categories, but into two. So here are the three categories I have for speech. There's the acceptable, there's the unacceptable, right outside the Overton window, and then there's the acceptable stuff, but I disagree with it. And there's lots of that stuff. I'd say most discourse is stuff that I disagree with, but is within the Overton window. What the left has done instead is they've said there's the stuff we agree with, and then there's everything else. And everything else is unacceptable. So that means that Kevin Williamson is now a deplorable. It means that I am a deplorable. It means that Barry Weiss, a columnist for the New York Times, who I'm sure voted for Hillary Clinton, is a deplorable. It means that people like Brett Stevens and Ross Douthat, these people are deplorable. It means that, again, Sam Harris is deplorable. Sam Harris and I disagree about a wide variety of things. But Sam Harris once said on national television that Islam is a more dangerous religion than Christianity, and suddenly he was an other. Brett Weinstein, right, a leftist, socialist, college professor at Evergreen State College, who refused to not teach on a day that the students said we only want non-white teachers teaching. He showed up anyway. You know, that guy was declared a deplorable because he was outside the acceptable range of windows. Right? He was outside the acceptable range of opinions. So what happens when you do this? Well, what happens when you do this is it means that you are lumping in a bunch of people you disagree with unacceptable bigots. Right, so now Kevin Williamson is in the same category, according to the left, as Richard Spencer. I'm in the same category as Richard Spencer. You wonder why I get labeled a Nazi by idiots on campus who don't know the first thing about me? Because I am not agreeing with them. Therefore, I am a Nazi. It is that simple. I am not agreeing with them. Therefore, I am part of this basket of deplorables. I am now outside the Overton window, and I must be excluded from the range of acceptable discourse. This is why President Trump is president. This is why, for a short period of time, the alt-right was in the ascendant. The reason is because this leaves people who have now been thrown out of the acceptable range with a choice. Right? We can either say, listen, we still think there are three categories, right? Not two, three. We still think that you may disagree with us, but we're in the acceptable category, and so we refuse to allow you to lump us in with people like Richard Spencer. We refuse to allow you to label us like some of the other people you're labeling deplorable. Right? You can do that, or you can say, listen, screw you guys. You've now labeled everyone a Nazi. So if you're labeling me a Nazi, I don't know. I know I'm not a Nazi. Maybe the other people you're labeling Nazis also are not Nazis. Maybe all these bad people who are already out here, maybe they're out here just because you don't like them. Maybe we ought to give their views a second look. Because if you're labeling me the same way you're labeling them, if I get hit with the same category that they're being hit with, then how do I know that you were honest in your original appraisal of those people? And so there's a real temptation on the part of people who have been thrown out of the acceptable category by the left to simply band together and say, listen, we're all in this together because we hate you guys. Or because you guys threw us out. We're out here in the cold. You threw us out of the cabin. And now it's snowing. So we can either argue amongst ourselves in the snow, or we can all band together and we can try to break back into the cabin, right? That's sort of the idea that's being pushed here. Now, the moral thing to do is say, listen, we're going to try to break in the cabin without people we think are bad. We have our own independent viewpoint. I have my own independent viewpoint. And you can try to throw me out of the range of acceptable discourse, but I refuse to accept your label. And I refuse to accept that you are labeling me in the same way that you label a bunch of people who really are disgusting and who really do have disgusting views. But the temptation is going to be always and ever to simply say, listen, you've thrown us all out. Alliances of convenience. If you've declared war on us, well, we're not gonna play by the Marcus and Queensberry rules. You declare war on us, we'll take the allies we can get, and we'll fight back against you. The left has been counting on the virtue of conservatives to keep them from making common cause with truly garbage people. But that makes no sense. If you call conservatives garbage people, and then you say, yes, but you really should continue to separate yourself off from the actual garbage people, you can't have it both ways. If we're garbage, then you have to expect us not to act virtuous. Right? This is, you want to know why we're entering into a tribal routine here? Why we're getting closer and closer to political tribalism that is going to end poorly for all involved? The reason is because the left has created the anti-left tribe. And that's what's happened. This is why This is why Donald Trump was successful. He didn't campaign as conservative. He campaigned as an anti-left fighter. And a lot of people said, okay, fine. Well, if he's against them, I'm with him. This is how you generate that. If the left really wanted to have a serious conversation, they wanted to prevent this sort of tribalism, all they have to do is recognize that there are people with whom they disagree, that they will still allow to be part of the discourse. But I don't mean people like David Frum, who pretend to disagree with them, but really agree with them on a broad swath of policies. If they continue along these lines, they're really cruising for a bruising. They're really cruising. There's going to be a backlash, and it's going to be uncontrollable. And they're not going to like the impact. They're already not liking the impact, because the backlash is already underway. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about some insanity that's happening in Great Britain, because this is truly crazy. So apparently, there's been a wild upswing in the amount of murder in London. Well, that's not a tremendous shock, considering that the demographics of London have changed. The policing in London has changed wildly. That the mayor of London City, Khan, is really terrible at his job. But the murder rate in London now outstrips the murder rate in New York, which is pretty incredible, actually. Right? The murder rate in Britain has always been extraordinarily low. This is why when people say, well, you know, you ban guns in Britain, that's why the murder rate is low. The murder rate was low before the bans on guns. And the murder rate in Britain was always quite low. But here is what it says according to Today Online. On Thursday, April 5th, 5 teenagers were stabbed in an hour and a half before sunset, including a boy of 13. All these attacks took place in London over the past week, part of an apparent spike in violence in the British capital. After a long period of steady declines in violent crime, the city has averaged in excess of 3 killings a week so far this year. More than 50 people have been killed in London since the start of 2018. The total for all of 2017, a year when the city suffered multiple deadly terrorist attacks, was 116. Criminologists have expressed caution about drawing conclusions from only a few months' figures, but if the uptick continues, it will amount to London's highest level of violence in more than a decade. A year with 200 homicides for a city of 8.5 million people would be far from a shocking high in the U.S. New York City had 292 murders last year, according to the 2018 Police Commissioner's report. That was a record low. But right now, London's murder rate is outstripping the murder rate in New York City, which is, again, a pretty incredible thing. So I do love what they're now talking about in London. They're now talking about banning knives. No joke. They're using the exact same logic they used about guns, and now they're applying it to knives. So Sadiq Khan has announced a broad new knife control policy designed to keep quote-unquote weapons of war out of the hands of Londoners looking to cause others harm. The UK Parliament is considering bills that restrict the manufacture and purchase of kitchen cooking knives because they have points on them, because they're pointy things. So I guess machetes would still be okay, like the one that guy used a couple of years ago, that Muslim terrorist used to chop down an actual British soldier on the streets of London. That'll still be okay, because as we all know, machetes aren't really dangerous. Like, from every horror film, we know machetes aren't dangerous, only knives are dangerous. But they're going to start determining how exactly knives are distributed. The tough immediate measures involve an incredible police crackdown, a ban on home deliveries of knives and acid, and expanding law enforcement stop and search powers so the police may stop anyone they believe to be a threat or planning a knife or acid attack. Khan announced Friday the city has created a, quote, violent crime task force of 120 officers tasked with rooting out knife-wielding individuals in public spaces, and is pumping nearly $50 million into the Metropolitan Police Department so they can better arm themselves against knife attacks. He's also empowering the Met Police to introduce targeted patrols with extra stop and search powers for areas worst affected, according to a statement. Now, one of the what's really kind of hilarious here is that one of the reasons that the crime rate is going up is because Khan is responsible for, according to Emily Zanotti at the Daily Wire, for decreasing the number of stop and searches, having previously declared the tactic racist and potentially Islamophobic. So in other words, he got rid of stop and frisk in London, saying that it was targeting so many young Muslim guys, and then the crime rate went up, and now he's going to target everyone. It's not really clear what they're going to use in London to cut their food anymore if you can't get a home delivery of a knife. And if you're not allowed to carry it home, how do you actually get the knife from the department store home? Parliament is set to take up heavy knife control legislation when it resumes this week. The UK government is expected to introduce a ban on online knife sales and home knife deliveries. So now you have to go to a store to purchase a knife. Maybe you have to have a license to purchase a knife. You have to be a culinary specialist. They declare it illegal to possess zombie knives and knuckle dusters in private. Zombie knives are those defined as being manufactured for the purpose of being used as a person-to-person weapon, and ban sales of caustic materials to anyone under the age of 18. Of course, that won't really stop anything, since most of these acid attacks that have been occurring are occurring among people who are late teenagers or older. London has seen a dramatic uptick in murder rates, of course. So again, it ain't about the knives, folks. Maybe you ought to look at the people who are wielding the knives. Maybe you ought to be looking at the people who are actually performing the acid attacks. But since we're not allowed to do that, we're going to crack down on knives, and then we'll crack down on fists, and then we'll crack down on any any blunt object in your home. You don't be allowed to have blunt objects. Soon, we'll end up all sitting in blank rooms with no furniture because anything can be used as maybe pillows, but no, we can use pillows for suffocation. So eventually, we're all just walking around like John Travolta in The Bubble Boy because that presumably will stop crime, not actually targeting criminals. Pretty amazing stuff, but demonstrates what happens when an entire civilization loses their mind and stops targeting criminality and starts instead pretending that the tools of criminality are more important than the criminals themselves. Okay, time for a couple of things that I like and then some things that I hate. So, things that I like. So on the way home yesterday in the car, it was a long drive, and so everyone was asleep, and so that's a good time to listen to musical theater because you actually get a story told to you. Well, one of my favorite musicals is, of course, Pippin, and one of the best numbers from Pippin is Corner of the Sky. Here's what it sounds like. The new Broadway production is just tremendous. I believe it's on tour now. If it's not, then it was recently. But the production is really, really good. It's not for children, obviously. It's PG-13 enough. But this song is just great.
Its season, everything has its time. Show me a reason and I'll soon show you a rhyme. Cats fit on the windowsill, children fit in the snow. So why do I feel I don't fit anywhere I go? Rivers belong where they can ramble. Eagles belong where they come.
So this show won Best Tony, best musical Tony in the 1970s, and it's really first rate. One of the things that's fascinating about this show is that the whole show is about a guy who had these wide world aspirations for changing the world and making a dent in the world and all this stuff, and it's about him learning that you can't, that maybe the best way to make a dent in the world is just by living a life where you bring up your wife and kids. And it's a pretty amazing message that comes out of Broadway. Particularly because Broadway is so far to the left, but it's an important message nonetheless. So check out Pippin if you ever have a chance. It's really great. Okay, a couple of other things that I like. So apparently, Bill Maher over the weekend defended Laura Ingraham. Laura Ingraham, of course, was victim of a boycott by a bunch of leftists because she said something quasi-mean to a Parkland student, which you're not allowed to do. And Bill Maher comes out and he says, "Listen, I don't like Laura Ingraham, but this is stupid." Good for Bill Maher.
I want to defend Laura Ingraham. I know that sounds ridiculous. But it has to do with the Parkland kids and guns and free speech. Now, I think those kids did a great thing. They put this issue in a place we've never had it before, and I wish them success. But, you know, if you're going to be out there in the arena and make yourselves the champions of this cause, people are going to have the right, I think, to argue back. Here's what she tweeted: David Hogg rejected by 4 colleges because he put that up there because, of course, we have to share everything. To which he applied and whined about it. Okay, maybe you shouldn't say that about a 17-year-old, but again, he is in the arena, and then he calls for a boycott of her sponsors. Now, what is that American? To call for really that?
Let me explain something.
And he complains about bullying. That's bullying. I have been the victim of a boycott. I lost a job once. It is wrong. And you shouldn't do this by team. You should do it by principle.
Okay, good for Maher. Good for Maher. I mean, what Maher's saying here is exactly correct. And again, you know, Maher's one of these guys who knows because he has been thrown out of the left for his failures to abide by the window of acceptable discourse, right? He said some things the left doesn't like on occasion, and this is because particularly about Islam, and this has made him a target of the left. The more the left throws people out and calls for boycotts against them, the more they are destroying their own credibility, even with the people who supposedly like them. Okay, time for a couple of things that I hate. Okay, thing that I hate, number 1. So there's a story out of Bradenton, Florida, and this is supposed to be some sort of grand civil rights issue. Apparently, there's a 17-year-old named Lizzie Martin, and she was told by the principal of her school, or the school district, that she needed to put Band-Aids on her nipples. Why? Because she showed up to school in a gray Calvin Klein shirt without wearing any bra. And so they tried to make her put on a second T-shirt, and then they said, well, maybe you should just cover up your nipples. And she said, we went to the clinic, and the nurse gave me Band-Aids in there, and she told me to X out my nipples. She followed the command saying she felt she had no other options. Her mother told the outlet the school dean made a big deal about it. She said this was a shirt that was unisex, that was too big, that was not form-fitting. She said there was a double standard that a male with excessive breast tissue wouldn't be asked to confine the movement of his chest. Okay, this is the stupidest crap ever. And she's a 17-year-old girl. She's in a class with a bunch of 17-year-old boys. If you really believe there's a 17-year-old girl with half a grain of intelligence on planet Earth who doesn't know exactly what she is doing when she wears no bra to class with a bunch of 17-year-old boys, you got another thing coming. This doesn't mean boys should sexually harass her. Obviously not. It doesn't mean that boys should say anything or do anything to her. None of that is the case. But if you think it's not distracting to boys when there are girls walking around with their nipples showing, you're out of your mind. Like, are we supposed to pretend that human nature doesn't exist now? Is this what we are supposed to pretend? And are we supposed to pretend that this 17-year-old girl doesn't know that human nature exists? Are we supposed to pretend this is a thing? Okay, most schools have dress codes. The reason they have dress codes is precisely to avoid this sort of situation where boys are being distracted by girls and girls are being distracted by boys. Honestly, you want the best thing for girls in school? Really, there have been studies to prove this. The best things for girls in school are sex-segregated classes. Okay, like when I went to high school, I went to an Orthodox Jewish high school. There was a boys' school, there was a girls' school. Girls in sex-segregated classes do better. They do better. And it's not for the benefit of the boys that this happened. Girls do better. Why? Because girls have this weird idea that boys want them to be stupid and sexualized, and so they play to those stereotypes. But if they're with a bunch of girls, then they're just there for the academics. But again, if a 17-year-old girl wears something completely inappropriate to school and she's distracting the other students, I feel how this is completely, like, what the school district did that was so unbelievably wrong here. They probably shouldn't have told her to go put, like, Band-Aids on her nipples, but they should have called up her parents and say, you know, Mom, bring her a sweatshirt. Or they should have had one of the teachers say, okay, here's a sweatshirt, put on the sweatshirt. But, again, like, if you're going to take this logic to its full extreme, presumably what you would say is that she should walk around topless, and that should be no problem. Everybody should basically say, okay, no problem. You know what? It's just, listen, if a boy walked around topless, it wouldn't be, then you wouldn't have a problem with that? Yes, because boys and girls are different. Okay, first of all, you wouldn't want boys walking around topless either, but to pretend that a dude walking around topless is the same thing as a woman walking around topless in American society is fully crazy. It's fully crazy.
Sweet.
Yeah, but I guess we have to completely pretend that, again, reality doesn't exist and human nature doesn't exist, and so it's some sort of grand sin that the police, that the school district thought that a girl should actually cover up her nipples in a class of boys. What stupidity. What stupidity. Okay, other things that I hate. So, last week, I made it sound like the Stephon Clark case in Sacramento was a little more clear-cut than it was, and I want to correct myself on that, because I think that it's important that we get as much of the truth about this as possible. So here is the actual tape of what happened with Stephon Clark. So here's, first of all, the introduction to that tape. Police responded to reports of a broken window. David French over at National Review described it. And when you watch all the released footage, you can see the initial response is pretty calm and casual. Two officers politely knock on a door. They ask permission to search a backyard. They find nothing, and then they walk back to the street. Meanwhile, a helicopter overhead spots a person trying to break into a car and then jumping a fence and moving to a neighboring house where he looks in a car window. And that person is Stephon Clark. So he is in the middle of criminal activity. And then he runs to his grandparents' house. There's nothing visible in his hands at that time. The police run to the house. They spot Clark in the driveway and they yell, hey, show me your hands, stop, stop. And Clark, instead of obeying, flees to the back of the house. The officers pursue and they round the corner of the house. And one says, show me your hands, gun. Okay, so they think that he has a gun. They retreat behind the corner for roughly 1 or 2 seconds, then they round the corner again. One officer yells, show me your hands, gun, gun, gun. And they start firing, and 20 seconds later, he's dead. So the encounter from yelling, hey, to Clark, to firing the first shot takes approximately 17 seconds. Here is what it looks like on the body cams.
Hey! Show me your hands! Stop! Stop! Try something.
Okay, so as you can see, it's really difficult to see what's going on there. It's very difficult to see. And so I wouldn't want to be unfair to the officers by saying that they went in there with the intent to kill or anything like this. But does this look like something negligent to me? It looks like, I mean, the amount of time that he's given to respond is very short. Now, should he have immediately obeyed the officer's command? Yes. I mean, this is rule number 1. When an officer tells you to do something, you obey the command. Also, should she have been breaking into cars? Probably not. This is not a good idea. However, that said, does that mean that officers are completely free from fallibility in these sorts of situations? The guy was unarmed. He was unarmed, okay? And when he comes back around, they say, show me your hands, gun, gun, gun. I mean, you can hear it. It's right on the back of it. It's not show me your hands, gun, 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 right? It's show me your hands, gun, gun, gun. So they don't even have a chance to give him a chance to respond. And I think David French gets this right. He says, before you object and tell me that routine encounters can and do escalate, I know that. But what I'm questioning are probabilities and perspective. Here are some questions. If it's dark, police are sprinting, and flashlights are shaking, what are the chances that the cop's first assessment that the suspect had a gun are wrong? What was the reasonable risk of backing off and continuing to give strong verbal commands rather than immediately moving from cover to an exposed position and opening fire? What are the possibility that the suspect hadn't heard the commands at all? There's some evidence that he may have had earbuds in. Also, what's the background level of risk here? Sacramento hasn't seen a cop shot and killed in the line of duty for almost 20 years. And it's true that cops have seconds to make life and death decisions, but you know who else has who has just a couple of seconds to figure that out? Is the suspect. If you don't give the suspect a chance to respond, then what exactly are you supposed to do? This doesn't mean that these cops are going to go to jail, as I sort of suggested last week. It's possible that they won't. It's possible that people will find their story convincing, or at least they will find it justifiable, or at least excusable. But there are some problems with training, I think, among some of our police officers, and certainly this does raise questions about deadly use of force by police officers and whether they should be so quick on the trigger in some of these particular situations. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify all of that because I don't want to get any of the facts wrong. By the way, there's another correction I think I have to make from last week as well. And that was, on the show last week, I had mentioned the YouTube shooter, and I think I suggested that she was Muslim. I said, of course, that her religion had nothing to do with the shooting because she just seemed like a crazy person. Apparently, she was Baha'i, so it doesn't really change much because I said religion had nothing to do with it. But just to correct the record, I want to make sure I get as many facts correct as I can on the show. And by the way, folks, you all have my email address. It's bshapiro@dailywire.com. If you hear me make a mistake on the air, please let me know so I can correct it on the air so that I'm not screwing things up. Alrighty, so I think we've run out of time. We'll do a Federalist paper tomorrow, probably, sometime later this week because we've run out of time. But we'll see you here then. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. The Ben Shapiro Show is produced by Mathis Glover, executive producer Jeremy Boring, senior producer Jonathan Hay. Our technical producer is Austin Stevens, edited by Alex Zingaro. Audio is mixed by Mike Coromina. Hair and makeup is by Jesua Alvera. The Ben Shapiro Show is a Daily Wire Ford Publishing production. Copyright Ford Publishing 2018.
Suburb called Ghouta. Now, the insurgents that controlled Ghouta, even in the United Nations, agreed that Al-Qaeda was controlling this city. The majority of them are town called Idlib. So the only group that hadn't surrendered was this group called the Islamic Army, or Jaish al-Islam. And the reason they didn't surrender and they controlled Douma is because they had leverage in the form of hostages, civilian hostages that they had kidnapped from nearby pro-Assad towns. And these are the wives and children of basically Syrian soldiers. And these civilians, they took them and they put them in cages in about 2015, and they paraded them around Douma and said that,
these are the moderates. These are the moderates that put people in cages and parade them around. In fact, I've seen the video clips of that, parading them around in cages. They had another video which you play, which there was one of the victims. They made them walk through like underground tunnels, and they look very distressed. But we're playing some of that footage now of them in the cages. So this group, this Army of Islam, they were the remaining factions who refused to surrender, because as far as I understand it, the other rebels had agreed, right, with the Syrians that they would leave within 48 hours for these other rebel-controlled areas, and they would get out of Douma. But you're saying they had these hostages. Were those hostages amongst the victims in this attack, do you think?
I think so. I mean, the part of the negotiations, which did go through in the end, was that they had to release the hostages. And the number of hostages was 4,000, except only 200 of the hostages actually came out alive. So what happened to the other 3,800?
We're live on the Alex Jones Show on the verge of what looks like another disastrous military intervention into the Middle East, not just on behalf of America, but other Western nations too. Steve Herman, White House Bureau Chief with VOA, tweets further indications just now from French President Emmanuel Macron and the Saudi Crown Prince that a multinational military action is being planned to respond to the latest reported chemical weapons attack against civilians in Syria. Also, Macron said if strikes were launched in Syria, they will target the chemical weapons capabilities of the Assad regime. Wait a second, I thought they gave...
Hey, what's up, Fusion?
I thought that's why we didn't do this back in 2013. We also have destroyers.
That was fun today. Oh, this bastard.
Right now, the US Navy destroyer USS Donald Cook is already in the region. As of yesterday, it's equipped with 60 Tomahawk cruise missiles.
This game's awesome.
We also have this headline: US missile destroyer reportedly sailing towards Syria's Trump.
You have this game, don't you, Fusion? I swear you mentioned it.
7 warship strike group with cruise missiles on its way to the Mediterranean. That is the Harry S. Truman carrier strike group. They're saying that's not going to reach Syria until April 22nd, which is in 12 days' time. So it's pretty bizarre how this is supposed to be a quick rapid response strike. They're allowing Syria to prepare for it, if strike, which includes Saudi Arabia, France, the UK, all these different countries. If so, it's going to be very different from what happened last year, when, of course, they basically just did one symbolic strike on an air base. Not very many people died, not very much damage.
I know, I'm listening to that too. They did a big bomb strike. France, US, and Britain dropped a bunch of bombs.
To talk about all this, we're joined by Syrian girl Maram Al-Susli, who's
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Excuse me. Holy. Yeah, shit's gonna hit the fan soon. Hopefully not, though. Knock on wood. X marks the spot.
Geopolitical analyst for New Eastern Outlook. She put out a video a couple of days ago on what really happened, chemical attack that led to missile strikes on Syria, and she's here to talk about it now. Maram, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Now let's get into the background of this, because, you know, unlike the Trump administration, it seems, unlike President Macron, unlike Saudi Arabia, we're not just going to have a flippant, reckless reaction, not knowing any of the evidence. Let's actually look at what could have possibly happened in this town, both before and after when this chemical attack happened. What was the situation in the town of Douma before this alleged attack happened? Was there any any kind of battlefield or strategic motive for the Syrian army to launch this attack? What was the situation on the ground before it happened?
No, there wasn't, and it's exactly as you said. You know, Duma is a suburb that's part of a bigger suburb called Ghouta. Now, the insurgents that controlled Ghouta, which were Al-Qaeda linked, by the way, and the U.S., even in the United Nations, agreed that Al-Qaeda was controlling this city. The majority of them actually surrendered and had already given up their weapons or taken a bus ride to another town called Idlib. So the only group that hadn't surrendered was this group called the Islamic Army, or Jaish al-Islam. And the reason they didn't surrender and they controlled Duma is because they had leverage in the form of hostages, civilian hostages that they had kidnapped from nearby pro-Assad towns. And these are the wives and children of basically Syrian soldiers. And these civilians, they took them and they put them in cages in about 2015, and they paraded them around Duma and said that, you know...
These are the moderates that put people in cages and parade them around. In fact, I've seen the video clips of that. Parading them around in cages. They had another video which you played, which there was one of the victims, they made them walk through like underground tunnels and they looked very distressed, but we're playing some of that footage now of them in the cages. So this group, this Army of Islam, they were the remaining factions who refused to surrender, because as far as I understand it, the other rebels had agreed, right, with the Syrians that they would leave within 48 hours for these other rebel-controlled areas and they would get out of Duma. But you're saying they had these hostages. Were those hostages amongst the victims in this attack, do you think?
I think so. I mean, the part of the negotiations, which did go through in the end, was that they had to release the hostages. And the number of hostages was 4,000, except only 200 of the hostages actually came out alive. So what happened to the other 3,800? You know, the thing is that the reason they put them in cages was because they were using them as human shields. You're playing the video now of the civilians in the tunnels. They actually released that video 2 weeks ago as a sort of evidence to the government that they still have the hostages are still alive, so that they can get the negotiations going. This group, Army of Islam, is actually supported and funded by Saudi Arabia. And, you know, it's interesting because if you see the timing of this chemical attack, first of all, Trump said he wants troops out of Syria. Now, why would Assad use chemical weapons if it looked like the U.S. was finally about to just leave and, you know, let him take back the entire country? It's exactly the same scenario that played out last year when the U.S. State Department, almost a year to the day of this attack, the U.S. State Department said that regime change is no longer the objective, and now basically and then a week later a chemical attack happened and regime change went back on the objective. And the interesting thing about Trump's statement is that after he said he wants to pull troops out of Syria, a few days later he said that if Saudi Arabia wants U.S. troops to stay in Syria, they're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah, join, man, for sure.
Saudi Arabia pays money to this Islamic army group that's controlling Duma, and these are the people that conducted the false flag chemical attack. So basically this was Saudi Arabia's way of keeping the US in Syria, because basically they had negotiations with the US and the Kurds in the northeast of the country, and they were basically given like control over the northeast of the country. So Saudi Arabia thinks it owns the northeast of Syria. And what does the US get out of this? You know, it's not really Saudi Arabia that's running the show, and it's not Saudi money either, because you know, even though the northeast of Syria is full of oil and majority of Syrian oil is there, the U.S. doesn't really need any more oil. The amount of oil that Syria has is nothing compared to the oil that the U.S. has. The point is that they don't want Syrians to have that oil. They don't want Syria to be able to rebuild and become strong again. And why is that? Well, you know, Tucker Carlson asked that question on his show to Senator Roger Wicker, and he said it was because it was in the interest of Israel.
So you're saying that It's basically a conspiracy between Saudi Arabia and Israel. We've now got Saudi Arabia announcing they're going to join the strikes with France. Now, I want to flash back to this, and we'll get more into this after the break. There's a headline up on Newsweek, that famous right-wing publication. Now Mattis admits there was no evidence Assad used poison gas on his people. That's literally the headline. This came out in February. Nobody really paid much attention to it. This is about the strike that happened last year, which was, of course, we were told, beyond any shadow of a doubt, it was Assad that carried out the strike in April last year. Now they admitted back in February, listen to this, lost in the hyper-politicized hullabaloo surrounding the Nunes memorandum and the Steele dossier was a striking statement by Secretary of Defense James Mattis that the US has, quote, no evidence, that's his words, no evidence, that the Syrian government used the banned nerve agent sarin gas against its own people. This assertion flies in the face of the White House NSC memorandum, which was rapidly produced, again with no investigation, and declassified to justify an American Tomahawk missile strike against the Shayrat air base in Syria. So we're in the exact same situation again. There's no independent investigation. Oh, but it must have been Assad, right? Who else could it be? Well, no, you got it completely wrong the last time out. You lied to the American people. You lied to the world. And we're heading into something even bigger now. This could lead to absolute chaos. And we're just sleepwalking into it once again. Nobody seems to care. We'll get more into it after the break with Syrian Girl. This is the Alex Jones Show Live. Don't go away. So we have the USS Donald Cook destroyer, armed with 60 Tomahawk missiles, just 100 kilometers from the Russian naval base of Tartus in Syria. We have Russian jets reportedly harassing that US destroyer. And now we have this, and I just tweeted this out on my Prison Plan Twitter account out of Jerez. Senior Russian lawmaker, US strike on Syria could trigger direct military clash with Russia. Oh joy. Senior Russian lawmaker says US strike could trigger direct military clash with Russia. This is Vladimir Shamanov, a retired general who heads the Defense Affairs Committee in the lower house of Parliament, who said in televised remarks today that a US strike in Russia could hurt Russian servicemen and trigger Russian retaliation. Oh gee, a proxy war between the United States and Russia. Got that to look forward to by the looks of it. He said that Russia has the necessary means for that, and the Americans and their allies know that quite well. Now, you've seen massive movement of Russian aircraft, Russian naval facilities over the past 24 hours. Now they're saying if there's a direct confrontation, Russia could, well, retaliate. Shamanov emphasized that a retaliatory Russian strike could target US Navy ships and aircraft, of which there are going to be plenty in the region, at least within the next few days. He added that the use of nuclear weapons is unlikely. Oh, thanks. Be thankful for small mercies there. We're joined by Syrian Girl to talk about this. Now, I want to get back into the specifics of the actual chemical weapons attack, but just touching on that for a second.
from 22622866059 received at 4:10 p.m.
Hey, Doug. Love your bud. Rob Wilson calling. If you text DJ 6059, whenever you get a chance, let me know. Okay, bud.
To erase this message, press 7. To save it, press 9. Message erased. End of messages. Main menu. To check your wireless voice message, press 1. To change your personal options, press 4. To exit, press star. Main menu. To check your...
Holy. Whoops. What the?
Oh, you got it.
Ah! It fell. Damn it. Where am I going here? Oh. Okay. Ah. Oh, we gotta go up, maybe? No. Oh, right here. I see.
Oh, you gotta shoot. Oh.
Shoot the fuel tanks. Oh.
Oh, did back up.
Whoa. Oh, I'm on fire.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Okay, one more. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Oh, you got her? Oh.
Jesus Christ.
Right on.
Jesus. Just a minute.
Oh, I need help. Okay, got it.
Nowhere to go.
Why can't I get the ladder?
There's a lot.
Ah!
Oh, the damage.
Whoa!
How do you get out?
Why can't these ladders? Oh, grappling hook.
Oh, that's good.
Sweet. Oh man, that was close. Thank you. Whoa. Nice.
That was John Country, wasn't it?
Yeah. Spread eagle.
Thinking of John. I don't know what you're thinking about right now. He's probably gonna capture us, I think.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, probably. Send a crew to get us, yeah. Yeah.
Or at least get mad about it.
Huh.
You do have something bad. It was a hell of a job. The way I see it, it was a one inch of job. And if you ever need it, just let me know.
All right. Wow. Oh, he's pissed.
Misunderstood by all, except me. John was not born in us. He was just a child when our family fell apart. He was loving, kind, true.
Did we kill him?
No, not yet. I haven't in my game. I killed John. Yeah, I killed John.
But he was my brother.
Yeah, he's pissed.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's pissed. Oh no. Yeah, no doubt. Man, I don't know why I have this crappy gun. Oh, I got a trophy. What's that? Yeah, me too. I need to buy a bunch of things. Oh, I can't buy guns here. Oh. I gotta go find some guns for sale. Oh, right there.
Oh, I want the AR stars and stripes.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Or the Fury. And that grenade launcher.
Yeah, I want to get that too. That'd be awesome.
I can afford every pistol that I have on my 44 Magnum. Oh. Okay. I want the purple.
I got the M60. I like that a lot.
Oh, you have the.
It's all souped up too.
I want the, what do you call it, the AK.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool too.
I'm about to get, the, MS-16 Trooper. Or if you can make the MS-16.
See, I still can't get a whole bunch. I can get a few of them, but I gotta unlock a lot of stuff still.
Money's like not the hardest to make in this game. It's just the way like you can go on arcade mode and easily make money.
Oh yeah, I tried that yesterday for the first time.
Should I get a cylinder dispenser or a square? I think I should get the square. Alright. I like that gun. It looks like a M14. Oh, you know what else I want? The Omega.
Yeah, that'd be a cool one. I think I know what you're talking about. I got a lot to sell. Holy cow.
What kind of fancy you got?
They're just like crappy army ones.
Probably wearing the militia. How do you make it where you ain't got a shirt on?
I forget. I just picked the primal. The primal.
Oh.
At first, all I had was like a little leather piece covering like my underwear.
Oh. Yeah, I was looking at the parts right now for a few seconds
Oh, I almost got 10 grand. Holy.
Oh my god. You got the short snow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow, I unlocked a whole bunch of different outfits since I last looked. Holy.
Boom. Alright, I'll let the discussion run. Yo, your boomer dog just locked me out for about 5 seconds.
Oh really? Cool.
Yeah, I was trying to use the bridge, and he just sat there for at least 5 seconds. Oh yeah, this is I'm calling my favorite view. Actually, check on. We're doing it.
I'm just gonna see what what I can do here. Special delivery. Oh, Kim's about to give birth. Put a little metal. Yeah, that's what it says. Might as well do that.
What do they want us to do? Protect her while she gives birth?
Yeah. Oh, where is it here?
I'm trying to bring out a car that will fit both of us. Right down the road.
Oh, we're close to where we gotta go, actually. I just bought a plane with rocket launcher and stuff too.
Oh, I get the plane thing. Yeah. I'm such an idiot. I could have spent that money on a plane.
Yeah, I got one too, though, for now.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It cost about like $8,000, I think. And I got like a plane with rocket launchers, machine guns, and drop bombs with it. It's pretty awesome.
Everybody down there?
Yeah, but once I get to the mission, it'll probably just jump you right to me.
Yeah, it makes you lose health too far away from it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll drive through.
Yeah, I'm just running, so. Oh, yeah, it says I'm getting too far away.
Dude, what the heck? That's gonna do. Alright. Come to you.
Yeah, that car's awesome. Sweet, that thing's sweet. I don't have something like that yet. I just went right for the plane.
The only problem is, I don't know about you, but he's just gonna have to find his way.
Yeah, he'll find his way. Here we go.
I wish he could get in the car, but he actually just walked.
Yeah, I know. You should be able to open the door for him. He should be able to jump in or something.
Yeah, I tried that one.
Me too. Yeah.
Look at it. Eventually. Right. Come on, bro. Oh yeah, she can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy.
The question is, which one of us are driving?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, probably me? I don't know.
Probably you.
If you're not in the truck, I'll wait. Are ya? Yeah, you are. Okay, cool.
Crap, this is fine.
Get ready to shoot. Oh, I just hit a pig. Why is there a countdown? Oh, okay, I see. I get it. Yeah, if you kill civilians, it takes their time limit down.
can't lay down.
Shoot that silo. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. I'll get her. Oh, come on. Come on. What the hell? I got stuck on something stupid there.
Yeah. The guard going
Where do I go now? Okay. I hate when it does that. It'll lag for a second. Oh, here we go. I gotta jump. Whoa. Whoa. That sucked. My controller's about to die too, man. Oh no. I don't think I can pause it either.
Yeah, you can't. Just keep it.
I gotta turn.
Why is there so many cows in here?
Whoa, we got a plane.
What's happening, man?
I don't know. Oh.
Keep going. Oh no, we're not gonna make that.
Man, she says we make it, so I slow down. Uh-oh, man.
Reset it. Come on. Whoa. You got it. We're gonna make it.
Wow. Oh, man. Oh.
It was right there. It was right there. Are you kidding me?
Oh. I hope I can do that again.
I'll do it.
If it'll let you. We don't have time to wait if it won't let us switch.
Yeah, it won't let us. Alright.
I can do it this time. We just got to make sure we don't kill any civilians. Cool.
Second.
See if we can land this thing this time. There we go.
I'm not in the car.
Really?
No,
Shit, I can't turn around. Oh no, I'll have to wait. Did you bail out? Ah, that's alright. Well, it'll try it again. No, I'm just gonna let the clock run out. There's no way we'll make it.
Follow me in.
No, there's no way.
I can't get in here. Just go.
I got 9 seconds, dude. There's no way.
Follow me in.
Okay, I won't leave unless you're in the truck. Okay, whatever you do, don't jump out though. Don't press your square button until you have to, unless you really have to get in.
Oh, it just called me on the ground.
That's stupid. It's like they set us up for freaking failure. Okay, you in? Okay.
Oh. Some of that's not a real point.
Full moon.
Alright, we got this. Started us at a good time.
Oh yeah. Woohoo!
When she said we made it, I thought we were actually
Yeah.
there in a second.
That's what I thought. That's when I slowed down last time. Last time we were here, we had like seconds. Can't see. Oh, I thought I had to go through it for a second. Sweet. Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, she had a girl. That was fast.
You probably don't see this stuff. For everything that you've done, for everything that will be there for
What was that about?
His hand had a bruise on it.
Oh, that's funny. Just went through crazy amounts of pain, and he has a bruise.
I got more man.
What did you say?
Nothing. I'm playing the game. Alright. Oh, I got a trophy. Special delivery. Let me check this house out here.
Who gave her the treatment? What the heck?
Huh?
How'd they give birth?
Oh. Another note.
Alright, I guess we go.
Let's see if there's any goodies. Oh, there's a med kit I need. No, I'm full. What do you got there? A freaking huge truck? Oh, sweet. Is that yours? Sweet. It's got guns on it. Right on. Holy. Oh, it's a civilian. Meh.
Oh, here's. Have you done this stuff on the south yet?
I don't think so.
Alright, good. Okay, back up. Go.
Woo! You getting out?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you have Hold on, there's some man in here. Someone. Alright, I know where it is. Just follow. But be careful, you're not busting you guys, right?
What are you looking for?
We're doing free stuff. You want to get a lot of money and stuff?
Ah.
I don't know. So,
Alright.
it's up on the roof. Alright, man. Whatever you do, do not shoot a bull.
Alright. Oh, yeah, the bees.
Alright.
Oh, I fell.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Alright. Oh.
Oh, what happened here?
Hold on. Grass right there? Grass right there? Like right by the view. Oh, wait.
I swear I've been here.
Yeah?
Ugh, get stuck easily. Well, maybe not.
Oh. Jesus. So much fun.
Where are you going? Oh, okay.
Oh, you have done this.
I think I have, because there's a safe there. It's already cleared.
Dang. Oh, this was fun. And to do this. Wait, do you have a mission?
Oh, I probably have a bunch of missions.
Alright. Alright. The mission.
Oh shit, I gotta quit for a second. I'm gonna be back in like 20 minutes, half an hour. Let's see if you're still here. But yeah, thanks though, that was fun.
Alright, I guess so.
Cool. Yeah.